Recruiting momentum is on the rise for Nebraska. We'll talk about it next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins.
All right, welcome. It is Monday here. It is the final day of June, everyone. Tomorrow
Feels like it outside.
Is July. There is a new what are they? An academic year, I guess, considering
fiscal. It's a new fiscal year.
Yeah, fiscal year. That's a much better way to put it as it pertains to college athletics these days. Let's go fiscal year instead of academic year, which starts tomorrow as well.
The money matters more than the education. I'm not supposed to say that part out loud, but yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So as we begin, Nebraska desperately needed some recruiting momentum, and it does appear as if they have gathered it over the last week or so. We've talked about this on and off, but it's been a slow start to this 2026 class. They had a couple big visit weekends throughout the month of June, hit it pretty hard, and got to work on some 2027 guys with the help of a guy like Trey Taylor, who's your quarterback commit for that class as well. So here are the names. They got a commitment. I believe this was on Friday from Nayland Scott, a wide receiver out of Georgia. He flipped from Arizona State, second wide receiver in the class for Nebraska. And so we'll put a pin in that and talk about him in a second. Then we have an announcement coming in over maybe a couple of announcements this week that could potentially be in favor of Nebraska. Several. Everybody does seem to want to do it like 4th of July or obviously before their senior season starts. But
this is like the thing now. So they go on visits in June, and the time to commit was last week and now this week, the 4th of July. And why not just commit on the 4th of July, like Darian Jones, the top prospect in the state of Nebraska, is planning to do this week. So that's a big one that Nebraska's waiting on. And then some others too, Connor.
Yeah. Okay. So Larry Miles is another one that is scheduled to make his commitment this week. That should be tomorrow is the announcement on that one.
He's a Florida wide receiver, kind of in the mold of Ja'Cory Barney and Cortez Mills. And to me, what stands out in looking at the makeup of this class, as I look at the wide receivers, and that's on our minds, and we're going to talk about wide receivers here in the first segment of the show, and then we'll get to offensive line and some other stuff as we get past the first break. But with the commitment from Nayland Scott and the potential of adding Larry Myers of Winter Garden, Florida on Tuesday, Nebraska would have a couple of commitments. It does have 2 commitments right now at that wide receiver spot. The one that came long ago is Davion Bonwell Whitty of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. But, and this is a big caveat here, he has not visited Nebraska since April, and he committed back in October of last season, which was before Dana Holgerson and Daikiel Shorts came onto the scene in Lincoln. And what we've seen from Daikiel Shorts with this wide receiver group is that he is not in any way shy about remaking this room in the mold of what he wants from wide receivers. You saw that with him bringing in Dane Key and Isaiah Hunter, and with the emergence in the spring and continuing into the summer of Cortez Mills. I think you can probably put Isaiah Mosey into that group as well. Huskers, of course, are also very high on Ja'Cory Barney coming back for his second season as a Nebraska football player. So is Davion Bonwell Whitty still in good standing with this recruiting class, possibly, and he just wasn't able to get here during June. But it's something to keep an eye on. And I think Larry Miles and whether Nebraska adds him is going to be another indicator about the direction that things are going at wide receiver for Nebraska in this class and into the future with Daikiel Shorts. I would say I won't stop short here. I won't sell this short. Daikiel Shorts is doing a complete makeover on the wide receiver look, the look of the wide receivers and the makeup of that room. That was poorly stated. A makeover of the makeup of the room. But
what do you if you're to put a finger on it, what is he looking at that's maybe different from what it was in the past? Like what is he value? What does Daikiel Shorts want out of his wide receivers that he has to have?
Well, he loves Ja'Cory Barney and he loves Cortez Mills. And those are a couple of guys who are in the 6 foot range and smaller in stature, but are going to be able to get beyond a secondary. He definitely loves Isaiah Hunter and Dane Key, and they're a mix of speed and bigger bodies. Like Hunter is not a small receiver at all, and he's one of the guys that was able to take the top off of a defense in the spring. So I think I don't believe this to be different than what a standard wide receiver coach or offensive coordinator would want. He wants explosiveness, he wants speed, he wants size. He definitely wants a mix of that. Like, I don't think in any way that Daikiel Shorts is set on having like one type of wide receiver within the room and say, okay, we'll put type A at the X, Y, and Z spot. Like, I think he wants there to be diversity in the type of receivers that they have, but the thread between them is they're going to be athletic and fast and be able to get past the secondary. So I don't know that it like bodes poorly for a bunch of players who are on the roster, but if you look at what's happened at that position group with players who've gone to the portal, Daikiel Shorts, remember, came in December and coached the Nebraska wide receivers in the bowl game, in the Pinstripe Bowl. So he's been at work at this for quite a while, and like kind of behind the scenes, just like step by step, piece by piece, it's a lot different looking group than what Nebraska had when it played Iowa on Black Friday.
Yeah, I don't think that's particularly, to your point, Mitch. Like I don't think that's completely different than what any coach would want when they come in and grab the reins of a program. Like I think it's good to see that he's it seems like he has a definitive, like, all right, there's some musts in the room, and he's sort of tried to recreate the room, which is fine. I think it's probably a good thing as well. When this stuff happens, though, you tend to you look back at the last wide receiver coach and you're like, woof, what was going on there? I never, can we talk about this for a second? Easy guy to throw under the bus, Garrett McGuire. I think it's pretty difficult to unless you really know the day to day and kind of what's going on, and or you start hearing stuff that comes out of the room. It's like, this is going this way, and the voice just isn't resonating. I never felt like that with him, and I liked him a lot too. But yeah, Nebraska brought in a new wide receiver coach. Dana Holgorsen brought in a new wide receiver coach, and this is just the direction that it's going. It doesn't have to be a thing where we're throwing shade at the last guy or anything like that.
Is it the fault of Garrett McGuire, or is it somebody else? The fault of somebody else, or maybe you don't even want to place blame. It's just how it happened that Nebraska, in Matt Rhule's relatively short time in Lincoln, swung and missed at Malachi Coleman.
Not that one. No.
Davon Hall, Isaiah McMorris. I don't think that Nebraska swung and missed at Jalen Lloyd. Like, he had an effective first year for certain in the program and appeared to have a very bright future, but he's gone after 2 seasons. These are all players that Nebraska invested in from Omaha and Lincoln. And I think it's representative of the attitude about recruiting as a whole, what you see at wide receiver. Like, Nebraska has said, we'll mine the home state and we'll try that. and we'll see how it goes. And to be real, it didn't go well in the first couple of years with Rhule and talent from your own backyard. So I think they're taking a new approach. And honestly, that's the approach in general with recruiting. There's a comment that Matt Rhule made. I don't remember if it was on one of the national shows or if it was in a press conference setting this spring, but he was talking about recruiting local players. So it was probably something that he said to the local media. And he said that it's really tough when you bring somebody in from Omaha or Lincoln or rural Nebraska, and you don't hit it big with that player, because then those guys become miserable. And I don't really know why a player who's homegrown would become miserable more so than somebody from Texas or California who was a swing and a miss. But I guess there's additional pressures on those players, and maybe in today's age of more microscope and rev share and NIL, like it can be a little different if you don't hit it. So as a local guy, I don't know, but like they've clearly changed philosophies a little bit, and some of that's the reduced roster size. But like Malachi Coleman was getting an offer if he came out in 26, 27 or 1998, like with huge rosters. So yeah,
I think what they've done too, this is something that I think I'm going to explore a little bit today on my show. So tune in, I guess. But I think
1620 The Zone AM in Omaha.
There you go. This is sort of like a microcosm as well of what you just sort of explained. They went through the first 2 seasons, and every coaching staff has kind of gone through this at Nebraska. You kind of get a lay of the land, and I think especially for a guy who wasn't necessarily familiar with the area and stuff like that, like you probably are trying to acquiesce to some people. Everybody, you come in and everyone tells you how it used to work, and they tell you like, oh man, we built it on homegrown talent and the walk-on program and all that stuff. And you're like, and you're a new coach coming in. You're like, hell yeah, that sounds awesome. Let's do that. Let's do it exactly like Tom Osborne did. And then, you go through your 2 years, all of a sudden you don't have enough wins in the field. Your back's up against the wall a little bit. And you're like, screw this. I'm gonna do it my way. Let's, and like you said, the roster limits change some things too. And so there's an evolving world around Matt Rhule right now, but like all of a sudden, things are a little bit different. And I think that's a good thing. I think you get to find out, who the coach is and what they're all about and stuff like that too. So they got 9 commitments in the class now. 6 of them are from the last month. And they're starting to build some momentum at this point.
All right. There's much more to discuss in the world of recruiting and what's on tap this week. We haven't even gotten to a big story that's out there that could come onto our radars later today on Monday. So let's discuss that when we come back on the Locked On Nebraska podcast.
But first, a word from our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook, where, yes, we are now into summer sports. So we're talking about baseball, whether it be during the day or at night. We're talking about golf. We're talking about soccer. There's people tweeting about soccer last night. Are we really going to throw all of our energy into the U.S. men's national team? Couldn't be me, but you can on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So,
soccer hater.
Look, they're never good. I don't know why people love this so much. Anyway, you're already following the action. Why not make it a little bit more thrilling? Throw a little bit on the top with the FanDuel Sportsbook. It's the thing that I always use to track matchups, and the app, of course, keeps it fresh with daily promotions and fun ways to bet. Speaking of which, how about this for you right now? If you are new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open that FanDuel app today or head to FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started with FanDuel.
All right, welcome back. Monday episode. It is June 30th. Locked On Nebraska podcast. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is with me. We are talking about recruiting, and there's no better time to do that because this is right in the middle of commit season. So first part of June, first 3 weeks were visit season at schools all over the country. Nebraska has gone all in on the June visits. Basically, if you didn't visit Nebraska in June, then unless there are some kind of extenuating circumstances, your family was on vacation for whatever reason, if you're a college, high school athlete looking for a scholarship, don't go on vacation in June. At least get your visits in. You're probably not on Nebraska's radar. That's when they set out to do heavy lifting in recruiting. And now that time's over and we're in a dead period and Dana Holgerson's out in Austria or wherever he is, watching an F1 race. When is the Austrian Grand Prix? Let's look that up and
I'll check that out.
Then we can track Dana. We can have a little Dana tracker that's going on. Unless you're him, you're probably like following the phone log that comes into. Is that how they do it? Do the commits call into like the main line in the football office and say, yes, this is so and so. I'd like to commit to the 2026 recruiting class. This is a big week. So to review, today on Monday, Nebraska is, well, we haven't discussed this yet. Today on Monday, on Tuesday, Nebraska's waiting on word from Larry Miles, wide receiver out of Winter Garden, Florida, who could put a bow on a big week for Nebraska in recruiting wide receivers and for Daikiel Shorts after the commitment of Nayland Scott on Friday. And then this Friday, the 4th of July, Darian Jones of Omaha North, younger brother of Donovan Jones, Nebraska DB. Darian is also a DB, top prospect in the state of Nebraska, according to many of the recruiting experts. Certainly the top remaining target for Nebraska in state is going to make his decision. Nebraska and Iowa appear to be the top two contenders. Today, on Monday, this is a big one. 4-star offensive tackle Claude Mpuma, a top 100 player out of Chicago's Mount Carmel, is set to announce. He's 6'7", 6'8", somewhere between 260 and 280 pounds. You have Steve Wiltfong of On3, who has projected Mpuma to Nebraska. So if you believe the crystal balls and such, the Huskers are a heavy favorite over Auburn and Florida, which also got visits from this OT in the month of June. And then Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and others were also after him before he set up his visits. This would be, on paper, a huge score for Matt Rhule and Donovan Raiola. It would be the third offensive line commit since June 10th. And this guy from Chicago is a true offensive tackle, which those guys are at a premium, undoubtedly, in the recruiting world.
Love it. And I love the crystal balls. And I think that we should have a crystal ball type of feature on our show or on Locked On. Maybe we could run it up the ladder a little bit, do like a Locked On lock pick or something, whatever. There's got to be a flashy name for it or something.
Locked in at Locked On.
Yeah, I've just locked in my projection for Claude Mpuma, who is a 4-star offensive tackle.
Good.
Yeah,
Congrats.
I'm feeling it. I like it. I'm mostly just following all the other recruiting analysts. By the way, the Austrian Grand Prix is over. It ended. It was yesterday. Congratulations to Lando Norris. Hopefully that was the person of Team McLaren. Maybe Coach Holgerson was rooting for Team McLaren. So there you go. They had the top two finishers in the Austrian Grand Prix.
Yeah, his son Logan is a big F1 guy, and they're headed over there. So he's probably off in the Swiss Alps now. That was, I believe, the next stop for Dana. Man, he's having a great. Did you have a weekend like that? Like, did anything on par with like the Austrian Grand Prix or touring the Swiss Alps? I meant to ask you that at the start of this segment. How things are. You sound much better than you did last week.
Yeah, starting to feel a little bit better. We're getting there. I still will, mute my mic from time to time to, make horrific noises, hopefully away from my microphone. But yeah, no, starting to feel a little bit better. I didn't do anything. Like, I guess a trip to Costco might have been my Austrian Grand Prix for this weekend. It was hard. It was a long race. I went right in at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. There were people, Mitch, there were people walking out of the store at the store is supposed to open at 10. There was people walking out I got there at exactly 10 there's people walking out of the store with a full cart of groceries already. Are there any rules at Costco? We could explore this on a podcast someday.
What day, is this Saturday you're talking about?
This was Sunday. This was yesterday.
Oh, are you sure they're not opening at 9:30 on the weekends? Because I feel like there are some.
What? Who opens at 9:30? What's going on?
Costco does sometimes.
Really?
Sometimes they open at 9:30. I think if you look at their store hours, it's different. And sometimes they decide to open at 9:30. Or maybe they have like some special level of members who get in for early shopping hours.
That's possible.
What was your main objective at Costco on this trip?
Just a general like shop. Like we needed some stuff.
Toilet paper.
No, not any of that stuff. Just mainly groceries. I also picked up this tri-tip thing that I threw on the grill that I'm excited to dive into a little. I cut it up last night. I'm gonna eat it this week. So yeah, you never go to Costco without like some special find or something like that.
What's the biggest thing you've ever bought at Costco? Do you see those things that are hanging from the ceiling, like the massive giant inflatable, like you want a water park in your backyard? You can get it at Costco. Have you ever bought anything like that there?
No, I'm scared to. I don't know what to do. If you go up, do you just go up to them and tell them and point at the ceiling and say, "Hey, I want that giant pool"?
You have a daughter who's, I believe, who has a 1 year birthday coming up. Is that correct?
1 month. Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna have to get her something good. You may want to start looking at the ceiling at Costco and see what you could do.
Are you serious? I have to go to the ceiling already?
I don't know. Probably not. I mean, you want to be like the dad of the century, or you want to like set the expectation low, and then you could do that when she turns like 3 or 4 and is able to actually get use out of the items.
That's right. That's what we're gonna do.
We went through a trampoline phase in the backyard. We've gone through the swing set phase, various other water adventures. So Costco's a good place for all of that. I was in Kansas City this weekend. My wife attempted to deny me the ability to eat barbecue. Like I got dropped this. No, that does not happen. I got dropped like this news flash because I was bragging to other people about how I was gonna go get barbecue on Saturday night after my son's baseball team played and we all got back to the hotel and cleaned up. I'm like, I got big plans. We're going to get, I don't care what we do, but we're going to get barbecue. And it was probably going to be Q39. And she's like, so who's going to watch the boys? I'm like, they're 14. They can watch themselves. Like, get in the pool. I don't care. Run around the hotel. They can run outside of the hotel. They can climb on the side of the hotel. Like, I'm going to get barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not met with great favor. So I called an audible, and we were at the Royals game on Friday night. Saw Shohei homer on the first AB of the game. Saw Bobby Witt homer. Saw Jack Caglione ground into a double play with the opportunity to get a walk-off. All he needed was a single to win the game in walk-off fashion. Would have been amazing, but he grounded into a double play to end it. So the Royals lost, but it was an exciting game. And so I called an audible, and right before first pitch, I went out to the KC Joe's barbecue stand, which is new this year to the K, in right field. And I got the Z-Man sandwich.
Oh yeah.
This has been shared on social media. It has onion rings on the sandwich, and it's like a load of brisket. You can get it with chicken. And KC Joe's has got a big reputable name. So I got that at the game. Just because this was like a preemptive strike for me, because I was worried that I wasn't going to get the barbecue that I wanted on Saturday night. And then I did get barbecue on Saturday night as well. Nice. So I ate it twice. I went to a place called Brobeck's Barbecue in Overland Park. It was walking distance from our hotel. So I didn't get like the let's load people in the car and go to Q39. Didn't quite get that. But I got Brobeck's, and it was very, very good. Had burn-ins and baby back ribs. So
you did pretty well for yourself. That's pretty good. Was that your first Z-Man?
It was. Yeah.
Oh man, they should make you a shirt that says like "Baby's First Z-Man" or something like that. That's a hell of an experience. I got the Z. We're way off topic now, but like that's the I got a Z-Man like package to go. They like sent me the materials to assemble like 6 Z-Men at my home, and it wasn't the same. It wasn't as good, but I appreciated the I got it online for like $100 and they sent it to me.
It was like 85 degrees in the stadium where we were sitting, and we were in the shade down the third base line. But in the Casey Joe's line to get the Z-Man before the game, I think it was 137 degrees.
Yeah.
And I was in direct. The sun was like on top of me. So when I got my sandwich out of the line, it felt like I would just run 4 miles, and that's what it looked like, at least. And I was able to get over to the view from behind the fountains, like right after the national anthem, and watch Shohei deposit the ball into the water.
Wow, you nailed it.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. We
what happened to this show?
We'll reset things when we return on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. All right, welcome back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman. Okay, Mitch, I got one for you right off the top here. Did you see? So speaking of, we've talked a lot about. I'm throwing you a curveball on this one. We've talked a lot about Memorial Stadium and the usage that it's going to get or won't get or will get. As we go forward here. Did you see that Camp Randall in Madison, Wisconsin hosted a Morgan Wallen concert that it looked like it had 1 billion people at this concert, and Morgan Wallen, a very popular country music star, apparently brought out like Brett Favre. He does this thing where he like walks out of the tunnel. It's like it's kind of odd, but first concert at Camp Randall since 1997, and looks like they knocked it out of the park in Madison.
Yeah, wouldn't have, I assume Nebraska would welcome something like that. I don't want to wade into any waters about Morgan Wallen, so I'm just not going to. I think a lot of people like his music, and
people like his music.
We'll just kind of leave it there.
What about Brett Favre? You don't have any takes about Brett Favre?
Well, I'm a little more comfortable with my takes on Brett Favre. He's made some poor decisions, probably after his playing career was over. I think he's probably pretty popular in the state of Wisconsin, despite his foray into Minnesota after his Packers days. But yeah, that probably went over pretty well. I'm sure that was a big deal at Camp Randall. I'm glad that Wisconsin is getting into the whole, how do we make more money? Because we have to pay our players now, starting, hey, tomorrow you have to start paying your players.
Yep.
$20.5 million per year is the number that rev share is capped at. So it starts tomorrow, July 1st, and poetic, I guess, that Wisconsin holds a concert in its stadium. Is Wisconsin selling its soul in order to allow rev share to happen by bringing in Morgan Wallen and Brett Favre to the hallowed ground of Camp Randall Stadium?
No, I think this is very much in its soul for them to have those people at this concert. But it's maybe that's how you could frame a future concert at Memorial Stadium. Like if they do something, I don't see how they do anything in like the next month or 2 before the season starts or anything like that. Like we haven't heard anything yet, so it's not going to happen. But maybe that's how Wisconsin framed it. It's the rev share kickoff concert featuring Morgan Wallen. And there you go. And you're like, thank you for helping pay our student athletes' salaries. That's very nice.
People, fans of Nebraska, Wisconsin, whatever it might be, would be how much more likely to want to pay and buy an overpriced ticket if you knew that 80% or 60% of the ticket price was going directly into the pockets of the student athletes that you want to see win games in the fall.
Hi, that number skyrockets once you get into that category. Yes.
Yeah, that's a reality now. Like starting Tuesday, that's a reality. It wasn't really a reality in NIL, because I don't believe that like 1890 could stage a concert at 1890 didn't own Memorial Stadium, so it was difficult.
You had to tiptoe a little bit. Now you don't have to tiptoe anymore. It's like, yeah, we're paying them. This is how it works.
Okay, I got a curveball for you too. we were going to talk more about recruiting, and we were going to talk more about Claude and Puma and him being from Chicago and what that could mean for Nebraska. But let's wait until Tuesday on that, because he's going to commit on Monday. And if he commits to Nebraska, then we can do a show, a big portion of a show about Puma on Tuesday. So look forward to that tonight. That commitment, I believe, is this evening, and that will be a big development for Nebraska one way or the other. Yeah. Here's a curveball for you. So recently, in an interview with the Huskers Radio Network, Nebraska Athletic Director Troy Dannon told Jessica Cootie that Nebraska is planning to add a women's sport. Like I think there's been some hinting at this, but he just said, but eventually we're going to do this. They're going to add a women's sport to the lineup of sports that they have. And in this century, they've added beach volleyball. And I'm not sure about the future of beach volleyball. Like, I'm not sure that Danny Busboom Kelly is entirely sold that they want to continue doing that. They've added rifle at some point, but that's been like 20 years or 20 years plus. So it's not like something that you do every year. Cool. What do you think they're going to add? Are they going to add lacrosse? Are they going to add something else that like exists within the Big Ten, like women's wrestling? Or are they going to add women's flag football? What do you think it's going to be?
Ooh, interesting. I you know what? I should have thought about that as I was cycling through those things in my head while you were talking there. I did not think about flag football, but that has certainly been a thing that Matt Rhule has been.
He's big on that.
Yeah, he's huge. He's huge on that. So lacrosse was the first one that came to my mind. I just thought, wrestling is something that's really, really taken off as well. Women's wrestling. I actually thought about hockey. Like women's hockey is something that's a thing in the Big Ten. So I'd be curious to see what the kind of research on that looks like, because that's an important decision. I mean, you are now giving a handful or more student athletes the ability to go to college for free or whatever it might be. After that, it's about opportunity and stuff like that. So I'm curious to see where Nebraska might head with that if that indeed is the case. But I guess lacrosse would probably be the favorite. That's the one that's been talked about for the longest, but it's definitely not the hottest at the moment, right?
So women's flag football is going to be included in the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. The NAIA has brought it in. It's considered an emerging sport for the NCAA, not been added officially by the NCAA, but the Atlantic East Conference. It's not
nice.
Is it the D1? I don't know. Atlantic East is playing women's flag football, making it the first NCAA conference to adopt the sport. So I think Dannon and Rhule want to be on the front edge of this. This is my read of things, like reading between the lines. I want to ask both of them about this at Big Ten Media Days, which is coming up 3 weeks from tomorrow. Nebraska will be on stage in Las Vegas at Big Ten Media Days. So get ready for that. And that's my crystal ball right there. We're talking crystal balls on this episode. Nebraska is going to be in the market for women's flag football. Not inside information or anything like that, but to hear Dannon start to go down that road with some of his thoughts and to read the tea leaves a bit, I think Matt Rhule's going to be already is a big advocate for flag football. And you could see it as soon as what did I say? The 2028 Olympics. I may have said 2018. It's long. That was long ago, but 2028 Olympics in Los Angeles will include women's flag football.
All right. That is it for us today. Come back tomorrow. We'll have we'll stray off into foreign lands yet again, but it'll be July 1st. Rev sharing will be a thing, and
fireworks.
The new fiscal year or the new academic calendar coming up.
Yeah.
So join us tomorrow. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, you can check out the Portal Show with Brian Smith and find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.